How is everyone doing? Golden Eagles. Great. I am hoping that you're having a good time and you're enjoying the Computer Science Alumni Day. Um, this is our last session for the day, and this is the 34th Annual Computer Science Alumni Panel. I will be co-moderating this session with Carla Kubert, an alumna of the Computer Science Department in 1990. Would you please introduce yourself, Carla?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Kubert, as Katie mentioned, and I'm happy to be here. I graduated in 1990 as a double major at that time. Computer science and business was two different departments, and I chose to have degrees in both, and so I'm a double alum. Since I have been a systems engineer at IBM, and then opened my own consulting practice and had it for over 20 years. Currently, I'm a vice president at Reuben Brown, where we are an accounting, tax, and audit firm, but also IT consulting. So I do a lot of IT technology solutions and have done them for over 30 years, providing business transformation, ERP solutions, and a lot of other technology solutions for a variety of industries all over the nation and some globally as well. I'm proud to be here and happy to be here anytime. All right.
Thank you, Carla. Before we get started, I would like to invite Jessica and Anna from Alumni Relations to give you a warm welcome, and then we'll get started.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations here at Northeastern. Thank you to the College of Business and Technology for hosting this Computer Science Alumni Panel every year and for inviting me to give a little spiel. Thank you, most of all, to our alumni panelists for giving your time and to visit and talk to current NEIU students. It means a lot to them, and it means a lot to your alma mater. Thank you to any alumni that may be in the audience as well. Alumni are always welcome back here at NEIU. Panels like this just go to show that your connection with Northeastern doesn't have to end once you cross that stage. The knowledge and expertise our alumni have to share with the current students make a difference, and they want to learn from you. I mean, clearly, look at this room. There's so many people here. Now, I'm not going to ask you for money. That's not my job. I have other colleagues for that. My only ask is that you stay connected with us. We in the alumni office always encourage our alums to visit often and to stay plugged in with our community, especially when you're just starting out. Say hi to old professors or visit your friends who may still be taking classes. For our upcoming 2026 grads, you guys can come back and visit the new education building once it's done next school year. Or if you're like me, you can quietly stay connected to us by keeping tabs on us. Follow our social media pages, the @NEIU alumni or the CBT social pages. That way you know what's going on campus, what events you may want to partake in, and whether it's just a networking event or just something to do. For example, we have the NEIU night with the Chicago White Sox in June, and the NEIU night at the Cubs game is back to kick off homecoming in September. This year, homecoming is September 16th through the 19th. We have some great family-friendly events that we're really excited about. So bring your friends, your family, your kids, your friends' kids, the more the merrier. Make new memories with the NEIU community as an alum and continue to share your experiences with others. Thank you again for taking the time to speak with us today and for visiting. We hope to see you again real soon. I'll leave it over to you.
Thanks, Lauren. Thank you to Lauren. Anna's also in the audience right now, works at Office of Alumni Relations centrally for the entire university. My role at the college, my name is Jessica Mueller. I am an MBA alumni from NEIU, and I also now serve as the Executive Director of Business Innovation, Advancement, and Adult Education within the college. And what that means is a few things. One, it's fortifying and creating one of our first unit-based alumni and fundraising efforts within a college. So that means that we can spend more time bringing alumni events, services, resources, to you. For instance, come out to our events, right? We'll as part of alumni or homecoming, we'll be hosting an MBA wine night. If you haven't been, who's been to our wine nights yet? None? No. Oh, Jocelyn in the back. It's fabulous. Dr. Rob Cook hosts that event. He's a WSET level 2, so it's a wine educator. And we've been using it to cultivate our MBA students and engage with our MBA students, our alums, and potential and prospect students. But for homecoming, we open it up to everybody to join, and it's a really fun night. We also have delivered things like Coursera out to our alumni. So we have our CBT Career Academy, which is allowing for individuals to upskill, reskill. And so it started within the college. It's slowly but surely taking hold of the of not only deploying it to alumni within CBT or from CBT, but alumni in general. And then we're going to infiltrate the world probably. So those are some of the things that we're doing. Also, I'm concerned with fundraising at the college. So what can you do today? What can you do tomorrow? What can you do in 20 years from now to reach back and solidify and strengthen the college? One thing today, you might not know that you can do this, is because of the volunteer hours that you've put in today, your companies might do a match on that. There's a dollar amount per hour of you volunteering places at some organizations. And so you can submit that, and then NEIU, CBT, or computer science department receives those dollars from the company. So please do submit those, and if you need help, let me know. I want to thank you all and all the alumni that participated today for your time, because time, treasure, connections, etc., are all valuable in their own ways. To Dr. Wang, Chair, and Dr. Tashaba, Professor, right? Thank you for taking this day, which has had a long-standing tradition at the university, and strengthening it and fortifying it to fit your needs. So we appreciate that. And we're always looking for opportunities to bring alumni back. You'll see on the alumni page that there's a form fill to identify how you want to volunteer, and we can go from there. The other piece I will just briefly talk about is I manage our Business Innovation and Growth Center, and that means helping people start their own businesses, helping businesses that are existing to grow, as well as look at R&D and innovation in different industries. So on the Big Centers page and over here, you can connect with me if you have thoughts about starting your own business, or a startup idea, or an innovation that you think can take hold in the industry. So I will leave you with that, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you to everybody, and I will be around for networking. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, now it's time for our alumni to introduce themselves, what year they graduated from NEIU, and what they are currently doing. We'll start with Skylar.
Hello. My name is Skylar Koyenga. I graduated in spring 2023, and I currently work at Flexera, a software company, doing vulnerability research.
Hi, I'm Samran Mirza. I'm currently working as a data engineer at Apex FinTech. We do a lot of clearing and custody for the online-only brokerages, and I sit in compliance side.
Hello, I'm Chrissy. I did my undergrad at UIC and graduated in 2021, and I did my master's in computer science here at NEIU, graduated in 2023, and I'm currently working as a data scientist at Exelon.
Hello everyone, my name is Dimitri. I graduated in 2021 from my undergrad and 2023 from my master's. Currently, I'm a software engineer at JP Morgan Chase.
Hello, I am Sean Cullen. I graduated with a bachelor's in computer science in 2022. I currently work as an implementation engineer at a company called Epsilon. It is a digital advertising company.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jesus Garcia. I graduated here with my degree in computer science in 2020 and got my master's in computer science in 2022 from Michigan State. And I currently work as a senior data scientist at PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Thank you all. I'd like to ask Carla to start with the first question. We have a couple of questions for alumni, and then we'll open it for students to ask their questions. Go ahead, Carla.
All right, here we go. Since you all have a lot of experience and you all started here at Northeastern, what part of your education at Northeastern Illinois University prepared you, would you say, for your first job and for your career? Anybody pipe in?
Yeah. So the two courses I would say for me were data structures and algorithms. Definitely for interviews, a lot of the questions were related to that. And then the other thing that I did was the SCSC research, which I actually got to apply some of my programming skills to an actual, like, applicable, real world, experience.
Yeah, I agree. All right, are we there? There we go. I agree. I also did the SCSC in my last year here, and got to have my first like hands-on experience with a real programming problem. I worked at the Field Museum as a machine learning intern, so I got to see some super cool applications of AI, as well as just like from the ground up learn how a system works, like you do when you're an engineer or any sort of software position where you come into like a code base that is new to you and you get to get caught up on it and add to it, and that sort of whole process was through that internship primarily for me.
For me, as I said to a lot of students already, I think that Programming 1 and Programming 2 are the two basic courses that you should master when you are studying at NIU. This is definitely going to prepare you for a job coding interview. And at the same time, I feel that SQL, I had one class that was with SQL, and that was really good for the interview process as well, because they ask a lot of database questions.
I will add to it and make it a little bit more general and say that your whole student years at NIU really set you up for success into your career. And I don't think it's only one class. And as we heard across the panel, multiple classes benefited different people. I feel like the general idea is being able to solve a problem, which we learn in most of our computer science classes here at NIU. And I feel like that's what really sets you for success.
I agree with that. I think the curriculum as a whole really teaches you how to be a powerful and efficient learner, which is probably the most important skill you can have on the job. I don't think that there's any amount of classes that could prepare you for technical interviews or for what you're actually going to do in a real world job. But being able to learn quickly and be adaptive is your greatest tool.
Excellent answers. Actually, you've all spanned a whole realm of topics, which is really great from your experiences. The next question, this is a tough one. What was your most challenging transition in your career, and how did you navigate it?
For me, it was definitely having imposter syndrome at my first job. I don't know, like even stuff like GitHub I had never used before, so just learning very small minor details, which now looking back at are very simple. So yeah, it's definitely that.
I think to add on to that, I feel like everyone here will actually feel that imposter syndrome, as Samran mentioned. For me, one of the things was working in a client sort of workspace was I knew the technical pieces. I didn't know anything about the business side. But just like I did here at NEIU, you know, I reached out to my resources at the new company, try to figure out how I can learn it best, and sort of went from there. And you're not expected to know everything from the beginning, just to learn as always. And you learn that best here in school. So, yeah.
I agree 100% with what the guy said before me. Definitely, when you will start working, you will feel that you don't do well, or you will feel that it's not enough what you do, and you have to keep learning and learning and learning. For me personally, I would say that once I did the switch from United to Chase, I feel that as a software engineer, anywhere you go, you have your coding skills and then you have your problem solving skills. But at the same time, as you said, the business side is completely different from a company to company. And every time you will switch a job, you will have to start from zero. So the only thing you get with you is your knowledge and your skills. The rest you learn. So that's a big challenge.
I will say what was challenging to me at first is when I first got hired, I was focusing a lot on the problem that was given to me to solve, and I felt like that was far from what I had to focus. What I had to focus was the business and relate the problem I was solving back to the business and back to the dollar sign that the business would get from what I was solving. So that was the challenging part for me, like shift my mindset to not only problem solve coding wise and data science wise, but also correlate that back into the business.
I think on the other side of that as well is once you get into, you know, the job market, you have a lot more restrictions in terms of what clients want, what they can afford, things like that, especially in like client facing software solutions. And that is a hurdle of like when you're studying, you're working in a little bit of a vacuum, and you get put in the real world and you will have constraints that you have not had to deal with before that you then have to learn how to adapt to.
This is a little bit embarrassing to talk about, but I got my first IT job straight out of college right after graduating, and 6 months later, I got laid off due to budget cuts. And there's something just inherently very sad and frustrating about doing everything right, doing the best that you can, and still feeling like you come up short in some regards. So I think it's important to take a step back and just remember that it's all part of the process. And just because that opportunity ended for me, it actually ended up opening significantly more doors for me down the line. So take things with a grain of salt, and try not to beat yourself up too much about when things like that happen to you.
So I'm going to take a moment and answer this one as well, because I had a tough time early on, right after I graduated. I was a systems engineer with IBM, and I had made it. I was so excited. I was Big Blue, and I was a consultant, and so happy. I just had 2 children, and so they were babies, and I was asked to go to Saudi Arabia for an indefinite period of time, where I would come home once per quarter, because that's what remote work was in the 90s. And I would get to see my children 8 times a year. I'd come home once a quarter for 2 days and then have to go back. I had to make a tough decision to leave, through work-life balance, to leave the company that I worked so hard to get to and really wanted to be at. And I was there, I was at a career. And so I didn't have to go to Saudi Arabia just because things happened with the project. But I knew another Saudi Arabia, a new project would come up that would take me away from my family like that. And so I had to make a difficult decision to leave IBM without another job and to start my own consulting practice. And it was tough, but I did it. Within a couple of weeks, I was consulting independently, started building a network and building people relationships and started consulting on my own. It was scary at first, but then others started to join me, and I started to get clients, and I started to get other people that needed jobs too. And things worked out for the best. I did that for over 20 years, and my family was better for it. I certainly missed IBM. It was really tough, but it was the best thing I ever did. That was my journey. So I learned during that time the importance of building a network and understanding, building relationships, and understanding who you can rely on. LinkedIn is one of my all-time favorite tools for keeping track of who I know. I'm going to bring this back to the panel. How important has networking been in your career, and how do you approach it?
I'll start first. So I feel like networking is the most important thing that you can do starting now while you're still in school, even if that's to open an internship opportunity. And take my career start, decisions that I've made as an example. So as I mentioned, I did my undergrad at UIC. I was doing a different career path. I was doing economics and psychology double major and a minor in criminal law and justice. So then I wanted to switch into computer science for my master's, but I also wanted to start getting a job within computer science. And without a computer science degree, I really had to think, how can I do that without having the computer science degree? So LinkedIn was my best friend. I literally reached out to so many people, and then finally, one of the managers at the time at Exelon, which is the company I currently work at, responded to me, and I kind of showed them my skills. At that time I already had taken programming 1 and programming 2 with Professor Arkady, and that was really what I supported my skills on, and kind of like selling myself to that manager. I basically said that, hey, like, I don't have the computer science degree, but this is my GitHub profile. This is the projects that I have been able to solve. And please give me the opportunity and give me the chance, even as an intern within your company, and I can show you what I can do. And basically my internship job was created, the role was created for me because I asked for it. The role was not there. I did not apply because the role was there. He believed in me, and he opened the role for me just because I developed that connection with him through LinkedIn. So it's really important to have a very strong network and utilize that.
I will agree with that. Networking is everything. I believe that your skills can get you in a company, but your growth is going to be determined from the people you talk to. So you always have to connect with other teams, communicate, make friends, be open to meet new people, and always, make LinkedIn connections and, stay in touch with each other, and it's good.
Yeah, I can sort of piggyback on that. Sort of in the engineering space in a lot of companies, you're sort of siloed, so you're not really meeting with a lot of decision makers. And so networking does play a factor in getting your name out within a company. The VP at my company, I'm actually pretty good friends with. I did that because where I sit within the company, I don't get a lot of exposure to a lot of different functions that happen. So, networking definitely helps helping you move up within a company.
Does anyone here know who Becky Trevino is? I didn't either until she randomly added me on LinkedIn a couple years ago. And she's a product manager at a company I never heard of, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But because I added her on LinkedIn, a recruiter who worked at the same company saw my profile and reached out to me. And so because I randomly added some person I had never met on LinkedIn, I now have the job that I have right now. So to put it lightly, networking is really going to save you a few headaches if you go ahead and branch out, meet new people, and you really never know where your next opportunity or your big break is going to come from.
All Yeah, sure. We can do one more question. And so this is sort of going back in time, thinking about when you were a student, way back when. For me, it was way back when. Um, what what would you tell yourself? What piece of advice from when you were a student would you bring back to yourself and say, you know, over my years, this is a piece of advice I would tell you? So if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice to further your career, to help you in life, whatever that nugget might be, what is that nugget that you would bring back to yourself?
I would tell myself that I understand things more than I think I do, because I think I left here with a lot of skills, but not necessarily the confidence in those skills that I needed at that time. So I think I would go back and say, like, you put in the work, you've done it, you know what you're doing, go out there and do it.
I do have a funny story on that. I remember it was one day I was going to Professor Sakedi's class. We had a test, and after we wrote the test, I was walking to my car and I was thinking how a couple of for loops or how a couple of variables or data structures will create a real world application. Like, how does that happen? And I was just walking to my car, like, curious, thinking. But what I was missing, it was a picture behind that. This is a small piece that if you take a step back, you can see a huge design inside an application or a huge way that things connect. But at that point of time, I could not understand it. For me, it was just one for loop. Like, and I feel like the same thing with our homework, right? You do your homework, you focus so much to find the radius of a pizza or whatever the homework is. But the problem is not to solve it. The problem is to understand how to find the solution and how to see the bigger picture.
For me, it was I wish I had started working on projects earlier while I was in school. I definitely think you need to spend some time outside of school, sort of with career development. This could be building up your resume. As I said, working on projects is a really good one. So if I had to go back, I would definitely do that.
I would say, similar to the themes we've been hearing, bet on yourself. At the end of the day, you're putting in all this work for you to land a job, and no one's going to be out there advocating for you. Where, as in university, you might have people helping you get into certain programs, things like that. That's not going to happen in the real world. So you've already done the hard work of, going through your classes, taking those exams. So market that. And I know that's easier said than done, but I think that's something I would have told myself earlier, to not really build a personal brand yet, especially if you're starting out, but to, just be more confident in your abilities and to make sure that you can speak on that instead of just showing it through a resume.
Similarly to what we have been hearing, I would also say an advice I would give myself is it's not my job to decide if I qualify for a role later in life or if I do. Your job is to do your best, put in the hard work and apply. And then in the end of the day, the person who's reviewing the application will determine if you qualify. Don't apply to a job because you think you are not qualifying for the role.
Yeah, I will say, slight tangent on that. We talked to a lot of people today, and I heard a lot of people who are echoing that sentiment of being like, oh, I don't feel like I fit all the qualifications, or, what if I put my neck out there and I get rejected? Like that is part of the process. And you do have to take those steps. And especially when you're looking for a job, like, apply to things you're not qualified for, you don't feel completely qualified for. If they interest you and you're like, I have the drive in me to get these qualifications and get there, that is what so many people do and do it successfully, and you can be one of those people.
Also, a fun fact to share around application. I recently ran the numbers because I was just super curious. And just so you guys know, so you don't think that you're doing something wrong, It's something along the lines of if you apply to 200 jobs, you have less than 30% chances to get hired. So don't get discouraged if you get decline after decline after decline. There's only one role that you need, one job that will give a chance to you, and you just have to take it and roll with it.
If I could go back and give myself some advice, it would be to celebrate the small wins. I think it can be really easy to always go on to the next thing, especially in computer science and with technology. You do programming 1 and it's like, all right, what's up next? Programming 2, all right, what's up next? Algorithms. And then before you know it, you've graduated. But I think I wish I could go back and kind of revel a little bit more in the things that I had achieved, because when I started programming 1, I had no experience with Java. And then by the end, I was feeling pretty confident about my abilities. And I never really took that step back to recognize myself for all the things that I had learned and all that effort I had put in. And I think if I had done that a little bit more, I would have gotten maybe just a little bit more out of my education.
So for me, I have two little nuggets to probably pass on to myself. The first is something we talked about earlier, was networking. You heard my story and how important it was for me at a certain point to make a transition and build a network. So it would be start a network, and start it now with your fellow students, with your professors, with people that come here, as alum. Connect with those people, because you never know when Betsy comes along, and you don't know who your Betsy is going to be that someone notices or someone knows. The other is mentoring, and the importance of taking advantage of a network when they present a mentor when they present themselves. So I was lucky in my career to have mentors. I didn't really think about it, but I did accumulate them sort of over time, and I was really fortunate to have them. And the flip side of that then is sharing and being a mentor. And so you all are in a position of knowledge. That's what this is all about. And the person sitting next to you may not have the knowledge that you have, and so start to share that. Start to be a mentor, but start to seek out a mentor that could potentially open doors for you at a later point in life. Between networking and mentoring, you can find not only people that enhance your career, but also people have become my personal friends as well, and they've enriched my life personally as well. So that's what I would say. At this point, we'll bring it out to the group. I'm sure that you have a lot of questions, things on your mind. Do you have a question for any one or all of the panelists? Anybody have a question?
So we have a microphone in the back. George will be handing out microphone. If you have any questions, raise your hand. George will bring the microphone to you.
I have more questions if you don't have any, but I think you probably do. Just don't be shy. You have a whole team of professionals here that you can ask a question.
One thing I want to share about me is I solicit for a lot of questions in my classes, and I learned that the third time you ask your students, do you have any questions? That's when they start asking questions. So for the third time, do we have any questions from our students? See, it worked.
Oh, there we go. He had a lot of questions for me earlier. I know. Yeah, you're great.
In regards to, because I'm concentrating in data science, but I also do enjoy programming as well.
Can we get the mic
Oh, can you hear me now? Am I good?
Yeah.
Woo. What was I saying? All right. I'm concentrating in data science, but I also enjoy programming as well. I did not have the chance to talk to the programmers. When with a career path like that, like what recommendations would you have for us to do outside of class? I know you probably went over this already, but just to get a clear, overview, like what recommendations would you have for us to like focus on, or I don't know, whatever programs or websites that we should, pinpoint to in order to gain that experience or gain the knowledge that we would need as either a computer scientist or software engineer or a data scientist?
I would say to start, just like follow your curiosity, especially while you're in school. Like it is such a broad field, and you can see like just across this panel, so many people in so many different areas. So follow what you're curious about. Look up, if you're on the research side, read research papers. If you want to get into the software side, you can do things like practice problems, leak codes. It depends on your learning style for sure. But I like to watch videos and explanations of things like algorithms and data structures and stuff like that. That was how I learned, and that was how I spent some of my free time. But yeah, just follow what you're curious with and try and like find your learning style.
My opinion to use the following. The number one you have to do is to figure out which one you want to do. You say you like data science, you like software engineering, which is good, but at the same time, you should stick with one. Now, as a software engineer, what I would recommend you is that at your free time, you may solve hackering and lead code challenges on the websites. If you don't know them, you can write like lead code, and they have a lot of coding challenges. Also, watch some YouTube SQL videos or get a SQL class over here, because you will be asked at the interview to solve a hackering challenge and SQL questions. And at the same time, if you want to understand algorithms a little bit more than what you do in the class, you can buy also the book that's called Cracking the Coding Interview, which is a nice book. So those things that you can do in your free time, and you can be really like competitive as a software engineer, junior level.
And to add to the hackering and lead code challenges, problems like to solve for the interview, if your goal is data science and you do decide that that's what you want to do, I would say most data science roles focus on Python and SQL. So when you do solve those challenges, do them both on Python and SQL. Some companies will give you the opportunity to choose which of the two you want to use for the interview. I do suggest that if that's given to you, to choose SQL, because the questions will be easier.
One of the things that you may want to consider as well is some of the other skills that you'll be learning, but you may not be posing emphasis on. Some clients are going to have, data in storage cabinets and flash drives and Excel spreadsheets and in places that you wouldn't even dream of. And they still have to, and these folks are laughing because they know they've had to try to pull that data out and move it into a system. And so while you might not be ready for that, be ready for the knowledge that it's coming. And so learn the basics, learn Excel, learn how to take images and bring those in as data, and do some parsing and those types of things that you may not have considered in old networks that a business client may be working in. The other is the soft skills. Even as a data scientist, you're going to have to create presentations, justifications, all sorts of skills, and be able to communicate, do a presentation to justify the type of work you want to do for an organization. Otherwise, you may be losing business, and or you may not get the type of work you want to get. And if you have the skill of being able to communicate through, PowerPoint and, Excel to back it up, then you have something. You have a more rounded skill set, not just, being a data person, right? You can actually survive in business. That, my friends, is why I did both degrees, so that I could understand business and what the business was going to want from me. After all, technology enables the business at the end of the day. It's not really about the technology, it's about the business that it enables. Okay, other questions?
Tyler mentioned that we beat ourselves up a lot, and sometimes it's nice to like take the step back and realize like what you've accomplished. So I'm just wondering, what are you guys the most like proud of? Like a project that you're proud of, or just a general accomplishment in your life? It doesn't have to be work related, but what are you most proud of that you've done?
Since I helped pose this question, I would say something that was really cool for me is I remember being really interested in cybersecurity like before I started going to NEIU. And I remember on my long commutes to campus, I would just like randomly watch cybersecurity related YouTube videos. And there's this YouTuber who sometimes does like penetration testing examples. And I remember watching one of his videos about a relatively simple SQL injection attack. And it was like listening to something in another language. I had no idea what he was describing. It was like just super technical in nature. And then I remember rewatching that video again after I had graduated. And like, I don't know what happened, but everything clicked. I just suddenly like understood everything he was talking about. I could envision like the front end back end connection in my mind. I could see how like the packets were moving with these requests that he was making. So I think when you're in it, it can be really difficult to see the progress that you're making. But in hindsight, it's impossible not to be proud of the things that you've accomplished.
For me, it was actually during the SCSC project that I got. So I actually did that internship at the height of COVID. And so they actually shut down the project that we were supposed to be working on. And so the mentors said, create your own project, just make it air pollution related. And the mentors I had, they worked in chemistry and biology, I believe. So they didn't really understand programming too much. So the project that I did create was studying a correlation between high levels of COVID mortality and long-term exposure to poor air quality. Anyways, but a lot, like 95% of that project I had to learn on my own. So I think like being able to complete a project of that scale by myself over a summer was something that I was very proud of.
Yes, similar. I have gotten to work on a lot of very like interesting, cool problems in my job, and one of my favorite parts of that is, especially larger projects, is like seeing the end result, like delivering a piece of software to a customer and like seeing how it actually changes their life. So I had the case where I was doing a project for the New York City Department of Transportation. And a lot of these old government institutions are like 20 years behind in technology. So they have like we said earlier, like a file cabinet full of data that they want to make decisions on. Specifically, this was for like legal cases. And I spoke to the people who did these searches every day and tried to gather evidence for legal cases. And they told me about how it would take them weeks to gather the evidence just to like get a preliminary trial ready for a certain case. So all of these cases in the city of New York were backed up for years. So if you were, dealing with a lawsuit, you could be waiting years to even have a preliminary trial. And that felt ridiculous to me as someone who works with software. And I'm like, we can solve this, we can fix this. And what our project did was take that from theory to solution, and we delivered a tool that reduced that time of building a case from weeks to like hours. And there was just an immediate feedback from the people who worked on it about how big this is going to be, about how it's going to change, their work, how it's going to change the people who are filing these lawsuits, and like seeing that end-to-end solution and being a part of that was just incredibly rewarding.
I agree with that statement. For me personally, was when I got my first job after college. I was in Walgreens, and I wrote some pieces of code, and then it was deployed to production, which production to translate is the pharmacist. In my mind, it blew my mind. I was like, oh, my code is in Walgreens. Like I was shocked. At the same time, I feel proud because you know your hard work goes and changes the lives of people. Second time at my second job at United, I could not believe that people. I was in the. It's called a baggage system. So every bag scan that's happening in the United States was going through our algorithm. So when I was going to an airport and I was looking around so many bags, I was like, wow, all these bags, they got scanned from my application, my team's application. And the same thing with Chase right now. So pretty much it's all the hard work that you put outside, and you see so many millions of people all over US using it.
I think for me, it's going to sound a little bit strange here, so please bear with me. One of the things I always reflect back on is during 2018, I was taking a Calculus 2 class, and the first time I had taken it, I had failed it. So it was a streak of passing all my classes until I reached that point. So at that point, I remember I started feeling very dreadful. It was almost like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. But I retook it again for that summer, and I passed it, and I passed it with a B. And I remember thinking that everything in that class felt like gibberish to me. It felt like impossible to pass. But once I knew I was able to pass it, I knew I could do most of the things I set my mind to. So it's something of a reminder that whenever I'm frustrated or failing at something, that if I just stay persistent at it and keep trying to solve it, I'll eventually get there. So it goes to, you know, the projects that I work on now. Sometimes it gets frustrating. I always remember that moment. So that's one of the moments that make me very proud.
I'm not gonna say study because I feel like everybody answered very nicely, but I'll say maybe something more philosophical. Um, so, taking all these answers, I feel like there is one answer that comes to mind, and it's there is not only like one success and that you can just be like, oh my God, that was I made it moment and that was my only success in life. I feel like you have multiple success throughout your life and multiple I made it moments. And the best I made it moment you can have is every single time you choose to make yourself uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is that I'm a big believer that if you are comfortable where you're at and you feel like you know it all, you're not growing. So by making yourself uncomfortable and choosing to grow more, that's the best success and I made it moment you can give to yourself.
So coming back and speaking for myself, I think it's a culmination and two traits. One is adaptability and adapting. You all know technology doesn't stay the same. And so it's staying relevant. That's been sort of a challenge of mine and something that I'm proud to say I've continued to chase technology. You can certainly imagine how technology has changed from 1990 when I graduated here until how the program might have changed year after year after year, right? Every year that you all have graduated has been a different type of program. And so staying relevant in technology is going to be a challenge for all of you. 30 years later, where will technology be? And are you going to chase it? The answer is you have to stay in it. If you're going to stay in it, like I did, you have to stay relevant. And so that's what I would say. That's one of the things that I stay proud of for myself. People may have had 30 years of experience in one thing, but to me, and I have said this many times, that means you have 1 year of experience you use 30 times over. That's my opinion of it. Rather than having 30 years of defined experience in one technology or another, one business success or another, one project or another, it all adds up. And so it's a culmination. And so be adaptive and stay relevant, just as I have over the years.
Eric had a question.
We had a question
yeah,
here.
yeah, this is more, I guess, about daily work.
life. Do you guys have any examples for how you address any urgent issues that come up? I don't know if any of you are on call, but can you think of an example where a problem came up and you came up with a solution?
I can go first. I still remember it. It was so in United, every 2 weeks we have a software release, which means that we do our code, and every Thursday, every 2 weeks, we push it to the airports. And this unfortunately happens 10 o'clock at night. The rolling window is 10 p.m. to I think 7 a.m. And usually we wrap it up around 12 at night. We're like, okay, it's done, it's working, we close the call. That night we did not close the call. The issue was over there. We kept working. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning. Everyone was exhausted, and I feel that finally we found the solution. But definitely moments like that, it's very challenging to make things work because you don't have a choice. Yeah, it needs to work. So that was one moment for me.
Yeah, have a somewhat similar moment, which was like a launch that had an unexpected issue where the client assured us that the production system and the development system were identical, and we'd been testing in development. And then the night before the launch, we deployed it to production, and it broke. And it was at a job where a lot of the people I worked with were on an offshore team in India. So I worked till about 3 a.m. until they came online and then worked with them. And we ended up having to delay a day in the end, which was not great. But yeah, there are those situations where, especially if you're in a client-centric, like deadline focused project, you have those instances where you're like, yeah, this is a 3 a.m. night. Hopefully few and far between, but yeah.
But I wish you guys you will never have them.
Omid had a question.
All right, I'm going to ask you the $1,000,000 question here, and that's on everybody's mind. So, as we know right now, AI has taken over all aspects of everybody's careers. When we talk about software engineering, we talk about data science, healthcare, education, everything. And sometimes the sentiment is that, the CS degree is dead, right? AI can do everything. Why get a CS degree? Go do something else. So, obviously I don't believe that, right? But as people in this industry and working in it, and you're seeing it a lot seep into your own day-to-day, maybe you're being advised by your company to use more AI. Sometimes they'll push Copilot, which sucks, but like they'll ask you to do some more AI stuff. How does it feel being on the end of knowing that this is a growing trend of, what's happening with layoffs and happening with the AI growing? How do you keep yourself, number one, educated in what's happening? And number two, keep yourself calm and understand that this is sort of like a wave that is coming, and then how do you overcome it? Sorry, I know that was a couple questions.
I think at the end of the day, we had talked about this with a lot of students, but at the end of the day, I see what you're saying, that the need for developers is diminishing a little bit, but what I would say is that the need for a human is not, and that is still definitely very present. You still need people who are going to sign off on stuff and who are going to deliver these systems. So it's all about adapting, as we were mentioning earlier, where you might not have to make most of the code anymore. Yeah, I can attest to Copilot. It definitely sucks. But I in my workflow, for example, I do very minimal coding now, and it's mostly done through an IDE and everything. But given that I'm working with production level systems, it still needs someone to go through the code, be sure that it's going to work, and deliver it at the end of the day. So I would say embrace AI. You're definitely not going to win against it. It's very good. But embrace the use of it, become a power user, understand how to use it so that you're a person who is enabling a product or some solution through the use of these tools. So I think through that, you become yourself, or you place yourself in a much better position to stay marketable and to stay in the job market. So not sure if I addressed everything, but I think I got the main point. Yeah.
As another data scientist here, I'm going to add that he's 100% right. And we've mentioned it across the table. I feel like it's about evolving and really just like moving with the technology so you can keep being relevant. And I feel like at least within the data science market, how you stay relevant is by not focusing so much anymore on simple machine learning algorithms. Yes, that potentially could be fully done using Copilot, still with the supervision of a human. Like, I don't know if you've tried to take a picture of your living room and say move the lamp to the left and it moves it to the right. Like, it still makes mistakes, So it's not fully there. It will get there though. But how you stay relevant in data science, at least, is we are transferring from just plain machine learning models to agentic and to agentic AI and Gen AI use cases. So literally, maybe data science in 5 years will not be called data science, but we're still gonna be around because we keep evolving. So I don't think that we are at the point to be scared that we're gonna lose our jobs, because I feel like coding is what goes into those algorithms, right? So as long as we keep evolving, we will always stay relevant, maybe with a different title though.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I also, we're 2 years into all the people saying that AI is replacing all code in 6 months. So it obviously hasn't happened, and I don't think it's going to happen. And I think a lot of the times, the people speaking like that don't understand that software engineering is not just coding. It's so much more. It's comprehension. It's integrating with systems. It's working with clients. Like the coding side of it has definitely changed, and I'm sure will continue to change and evolve. It'll be important to change and evolve with it, but the position as it exists, I don't see it going anywhere. But I do see it quickly evolving.
I agree with what was said. I think that AI will always need, like, you will have to supervise and make sure that, okay, the output is correct. And now we're talking about the big system, and we're not looking for one, let's say, coding homework. But it will Copilot, GitHub Copilot with premium agents like Loud is pretty good right now. But still not at the level that it will do something alone and you will just click approve and you will say, okay, the problem is fixed. You will still have to take a look. And no doubt, maybe junior engineers will not be, let's say, super in demand. Let's say that out of the 100, maybe some of them they will not, they will have a hard time. But as long as you stay competitive, as you're ready for the interview, you're a good engineer, and you present that you know how to use AI as well, you have nothing to fear. With that said, don't use AI for homework.
Hi, my name is Joab. I am in to sack the AI stuff right now. I am in AI for all, and I have been learning about stuff like prompt engineering or even like Replin, code Replin, or even like ChatGPT, like how all of this worked. And well, long story short, this class is just about how to use AI for coding and how to use it better for like developers or for people who does finance. And this class, it shows like how to do use your simple English about how to code or how to accelerate your learning through AI. I don't know. I don't know if you. I don't know. I just like wanted to ask, like, what do you think about having a class that only educates in AI prompt engineering, or just using everything in plain English instead of coding.
If I understood you correctly, the class is about teaching you how to use AI into day-to-day life when it comes like to coding. Is that what you? Okay. Well, I feel like that's very important because, like across the table, that's kind of like what we're trying to say is you need. AI is a reality. So it's not going away. It's here to stay. Um, so we need to learn to use it as a tool, but then still evolve to other things that it cannot do, and that's how you stay relevant. And maybe it's not an apples to apples comparison, but how I'd like to think of AI is like a calculator. When a calculator came out, it did not take math away or like problem solving with your, like solving a math, problem with your brain. It didn't like go away. You just use the tool to help to make your life easier, essentially. So that's how I like to see AI, and I feel like it's a very fundamental tool being in 2026 and seeing how AI evolves to teach you how you can use AI as a tool while also evolving in other fields and do your job in parallel with using Copilot, essentially.
I will argue that it's hard to teach because, in my opinion, in order to do that, you need to have in your hands a production level application with a lot of classes, a lot of microservices, and a lot of complicated business logic. Then is the moment you will learn how to ask questions of how to connect pieces together. You will not learn how to use it if you have like one Java class locally and you run your homework and you ask like how to manipulate a string. You need a complex problem and you need to understand how to get solutions for complex problems. And I feel that it's going to come with experience.
I think one of the nice things about AI that I've actually been taking advantage of is one of my senior managers tells me this all the time, and it's you don't know what you don't know. And I think AI is a great tool to sort of help with that, especially while you're in university, or not even then, in a lot of different scenarios. Uh, it's a great tool that you can use to just supplement your knowledge. In computer science, I'm sure there's tons of disciplines, and knowledge gaps that each one of us might have. And I think that not only using it within computer science, but in general with everything, it's a great sort of supplement to help you understand the things that you might not be perceiving and bring those into the picture. So, I would say that even outside of computer science, everyone should take a class like this. It's just AI is leaking into every single domain of our lives. So having a class on whether it teaches you how to use it within coding or in other aspects is 100% useful.
So you guys been speaking about like what's your most proud of moment or what you're proud of, but how about what has been your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it? Looking back at it.
Sorry, I feel like I'm stealing the mic a lot. When I first joined PwC, we had a concept called PwC Labs, and it was essentially a hub where anyone within the company can come up with an idea and we can build it out into some solution or some pipeline. I think the issue with that as programmers, as all of us are programmers, we're so excited to just get into the code and start solving it, right? But without understanding what your code is trying to solve, it might not have an impact. And I think one of the biggest failures was that I was so proud of this one project I worked on. In my head, it was sophisticated, it was scalable, it was very quick. And at the end of the day, everyone said, well, we don't have a use for this. So it was one of my failures, but I definitely took it as a learning step where I understood, like, okay, if I'm going to work on something moving forward, there has to be a reason for it. It has to be documented. And I have to make sure that when I go and show this again, people are going to get excited about it. So, I guess that's one of my biggest failures, that I delivered something, that nobody wanted.
My previous company was Allstate, and Allstate actually works very heavily in big data. I mean, it was like billions of rows, hundreds of columns, and so a few years ago, they went into a cost-cutting mode of changing from Spark to Domino for clustering. But basically, I had this one job of I had to make it more efficient because it wouldn't run in Domino as it currently was created. Anyways, I spent about 6 months just trying a whole bunch of different stuff. This is also before AI existed, so and the final solution was just run 2 jobs instead of 1.
Yeah, I had a early on experience. My first job out of college was at a startup doing like pharmaceutical data science, similar like huge, big data processing. And one of the engineers who'd been there for some time was leaving for another job, and I took over the project he was working on, which was creating a whole new module of this application. So I spent a bunch of time learning how it works, getting really into it, picking up the end of the development, and then I brought it to our CEO and showed it to him, and he basically said similarly, we don't have a use for this. This isn't what we want. And I watched him go in to get and delete the branch that was like 4 months of work just gone in a second. And yeah, a very humbling experience to have dedicated so much time and thought to something that just like didn't work, you know? And the bounce back from that is just like, that is part of the job, is that you're going to write stuff that doesn't work or isn't used, but you still get the experience from that by learning and growing, and hopefully you come out on the other side with a better understanding of how to deliver something that will be used or how to evaluate properly so that you don't make those mistakes again.
I had this pretty snazzy gaming laptop when I was in college. It was a nice Dell. And I remember I was getting close to my last semester and it started getting really, really slow. And I was like, I need to do something to try to tune this up so it can last one last semester. And I ended up bricking the system and I destroyed my laptop trying to mess around with it. So similarly, I didn't look at that as necessarily a huge failure or like, oh no, I'm definitely not cut out to be a computer scientist. But it was definitely a great learning opportunity. And I know now not to mess with that one setting in BIOS.
My learning, and I'm going to call it a learning rather than a failure, was in hiring the right people. There are, someone earlier talked about, imposters, and there are people that are afraid to say what they know or don't know, over their career and want a position so badly that they're willing to, lie about what they've done in the past and or embellish it, I'll say, right? And so on at least 2 occasions, I hired what was the wrong person for a client. And so, certainly it happens, right? It happens to the best of us where we have the wrong person. But, it causes issues for the client. Work doesn't get done. Sometimes you have to do that work and, jump in and do the work instead of what that person would do. In one case, I actually lost a client. Because the work was critical and this person just, couldn't do it. And so it's getting the right person. I say that because it's a lesson for all of us in that, you don't want to be the person that says you can do something when you can't, right? And you don't want to rely on somebody next to you that's going to be part of a team that is not going to pull their weight, right? So you want to be sure that the team you're with is going to be doing everything that they can to make everyone successful. And if someone doesn't, and sometimes it's a choice they just, sleep late, don't come in, drink through the night, whatever whatever the situation is, and or someone genuinely doesn't have the skill and is afraid to say it. If you're in any of those situations, have the courage, have the bravery to say, this is not for me, I can't do this, before it impacts your team, your other people, and a business. And then on the flip side, kind of have eagle eyes on, is someone really pulling their weight? Is someone actually able to pull their weight? Sometimes you can see that in project assignments, right, where you're paired up with people. And covering for them now doesn't help them later. So anyway, that's my thing. Other questions? Anyone else?
Any more questions?
I'm gonna have a question.
Go ahead.
So, in computer science, we so many concepts to learn, and we don't stop learning even after graduation. And when you're a student, a lot of people emphasizes on personal projects that's gonna sharpen your skills, hard skills. So, currently, you have a job. Does personal projects still going on? Do you have anything going on, or you just stopped after graduation working or implementing something new, personal?
Yeah, it's a great question.
You did.
It can come and go, I think, like with free time, but occasionally I will have that sort of like moment of, oh, this is the example I have is I saw someone selling a product on Instagram that was like a train tracker on a little LED board. And it was like $200. I was like, I can make that for cheaper, And so I spent a bunch of time and I like got the CTA API key and I started parsing all the data. And so I have done that on the side for sure, but I think that comes and goes more with like interest and at least for me being sort of stubborn and being like, I can do that.
For me, I sort of stopped with the personal projects once I started working, but I still did plenty of continuing my own education. A lot of companies will support you on this. So since I started working, I've actually received 2 certifications, which were both paid by my company. And then I'm taking a 3rd course in Gen AI with Google, which is also through my company. So I've sort of shifted from projects to, just learning stuff on my own, like certification wise.
At Excellent this year, we have 26 minutes for 2026, is what we call it. So we have 26 minutes per day blocked on our calendar where we focus it for personal development. So you can research anything you want during the time and do anything you want that will benefit you, either that is working towards a certificate or working towards a new idea for innovation or anything around it. But I also will agree. I feel like since I started working within data science, I have not done in the side any more certificates or anything. Actually, I will lie. I lied. I did the Java certification, but that was like early careers, Like I feel like right now I wouldn't go back for a certificate, but I don't know. And I feel like people on the table can back me up. When you're in data science and computer science in general, because technology changes so often, it almost feels like it's impossible for you to stop doing research and stop evolving, right? So you do it very naturally without even thinking that you are putting aside time to do something educational for yourself, if that makes sense.
Personally, I do have AWS certification. At the same time, I feel that it's good when you look for a new job than to say, hey, I have an active certification. Now, if you are on a job and you're doing it, if your boss is telling you to do that, yeah, it's going to benefit you salary-wise. But otherwise, like, if you feel that you're learning while you're doing the job and you can wait and take it later on or up to you, it's not going to hurt you to get a certification. At the same time, you spoke about projects, not certificates. So project-wise, I feel that when I had my first job, because your resume is empty, I did a project. So I created a very simple Java application that was terminal, and you were giving inputs, and those inputs were getting saved on a database, on a SQL database. And on my first job interview that I got, they had me present a project. They asked me, "Do you have any projects?" I said yes, and I had that running in the background, so I showed it to them. Now for my second job or third job, I'm not going to say, yeah, I have projects. I have real life experience, and I go from there. But yes, as a first time like applying to jobs, it's not going to hurt you to have a very nice, like job application to present.
Yeah, side projects are definitely a game changer when it comes to your resume. I think for my resume, something big is in cybersecurity is always doing extra learning. They have learning platforms like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box that you can go on and you can complete modules, get certifications, get rankings, and companies actually like put some pretty solid stock into you having put that effort in. Same thing with certifications, or for anyone in this room, I would highly recommend getting a GitHub page and posting some of your code there. That way you can link to it and people who see your resume can view your GitHub and see, the kind of projects that you've been working on. I think it's kind of hard to continue to work on those things once you get a job, because once you're working full time, you get home after a long day and you're like, well, I just kind of did that all day. Do I really want to spend the little free time I have after work working on more projects? But I think the passion always comes back around, and I do find myself still going back and starting to work on new projects and learning new things, because I think that curiosity is kind of just inherent for computer science students.
So I'm going to jump in and answer this one as well. Certainly in my earlier years, I started to do things like, organizational change management, certifications, and I went after a bunch of certifications and project management and then also Scrum Master. So I'm a Scrum Master, and all that's great, but it is tough to, balance life and be doing, a full-time job in, what is very brain-centric, and then, raise a family and do your home stuff, all the home stuff that you have to do, and then work on a certification. And so what I would say is I shifted. I had a shift in life at a certain point when my kids were a little bit more self-sufficient. I went to culinary school. I used to bake a lot, and I went back to school. And so for 2 years, at nights and weekends, I loved baking, and so I became a pastry chef. And so I know that sounds weird. It's not anything to do, it has nothing to do with IT, but I was teaching a lot of new systems to business people as a new system would go out, and so I had the skill of being able to teach a new technology. When I became a chef, a pastry chef, I could teach culinary classes then, and that was a lot more fun. At the end of it, we have croissants or French macarons or something like that. And so on the weekends, I teach culinary classes. You have to actually look at what you like to do and be a well-rounded individual as well, right? Look at, not only enhancing yourself professionally, but sometimes adding something else that gives you enjoyment. And learning isn't all about computer science sometimes, right? It's sometimes something else where you can leverage a skill you've learned, like teaching, and bring it to something you like. Now, I will say that I do a lot of work with C-level executives, and I wish I had learned to golf. So that would really help me on the golf course, right? As there are a lot of golf outings. So if anyone wants to help me learn how to golf. But that is something that, helps you too. Those types of skills make you more of a well-rounded individual. And sometimes, baking something clears your mind. You have an issue or problem on your mind. You're doing this for a little while, And then you come back to your issue and suddenly it's all clear. You have it figured out because you're able to take that mental break and come back and actually spend a little time doing some things that you really like to do. Make it a balance. This is why they call it sort of work-life balance.
Hey, next time we should try something, right?
I'm sorry?
We should try some of the desserts next time.
Yeah, exactly.
We can take one more question. This is your last chance. One more question.
It's gonna come from me. Oh, two more.
Two more? Okay, two more.
Okay.
Two more questions?
I had another one because you were talking about certification. How important are they, and did you have any one at the time when you applied for your first job?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
When it comes to certifications.
Oh, certifications.
Yes. Did you have any besides your bachelor degree when you applied for your very first job?
I did not. I did not have any certifications, and I still don't outside of my degree. But I do think that is part of because I have a lot of projects that I can speak to in depth from a technical business perspective from those jobs. So I have sort of a different form of certification.
Personally, I feel that when you look for your first job, they will not ask for any certification. But personally, I had one because I was going part-time college and I was full-time working in a computer shop. So I was fixing computers, mobile devices, and I had an A+ certification, but it's completely unrelated to computer science. It's just like fixing a computer. So I cannot say that it helped me a lot for my first job. But it's not bad to get a very basic Java certification if you have a free time, but completely like it's not needed. It's up to you.
Yeah, for the first job, I didn't have any certifications. I feel like they care a little bit more about projects at that time. And then I feel like for jobs after that, they care a little bit more about certifications rather than projects.
Yeah, so for me, I was graduating from my master's, looking for a job in data science as a computer science student, and I had actually decided to take a Coursera, I think it was like AI engineer certification and a data science one. And I didn't really even showcase that for my first job, but what I did use it for is to create the framework for a project like all the alumni had mentioned, and I let the project speak for itself based on the knowledge I had built from that. So yeah, I would say it's not super necessary, but it never hurts to have it.
So jumping in, it seems as though you need certifications and you want them to build up your resume, but they cost money. And so my advice to you is, go into your first job without them and let your employers start to invest in your development. Allow them to, know what certifications you want and start to have your new employers pony up some money for those certifications and developing you. And there's nothing more rewarding than learning not only on the job, but from the job for things you want. But you have to know what those are, and you have to ask for them.
Really quick, I just wanted to highlight for cybersecurity or even IT, certifications are very, very important. They're kind of like industry standard. So if you plan to go into IT, you don't necessarily need any certifications, but they can definitely help, especially if you have like CompTIA's Network Plus or just something that shows that you have some simple troubleshooting abilities. But for cybersecurity, definitely you should get your CompTIA Security Plus before you even try to apply to jobs, because pretty much every job you apply to will have it as like a requirement.
Oh, you had one more question? You had a question?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. Sorry, I'm back again. Just embedding those soft skills, because I know we always talk about the hard skills, but like I also know that soft skills are extremely important too, like people to people and being able able to present, little things like that. How would you recommend embedding or showcasing soft skills, especially with jobs that technically don't relate to the job you're trying to get?
Soft skills are as important as your technical skills. If you're an engineer without soft skills, you will not go far in life. You should be able to communicate problems that you have with your project. You should be able to speak freely without being shy when you have a black error or when you want a requirement to be more clear. Otherwise, if you do the mistake that I believe most of us have done in the past and every beginner does, if you're afraid to talk, they will take advantage of you and you will get screwed if you will not open up and express yourself. So it's good to be able to know how to talk and know how to keep it professional at the same time.
And I think to that point, one of the most important soft skills that I think probably all of us have is the ability to explain technical things to non-technical people. You're going to interact with that multiple times a day for different people, whether it's like people who work on the same clients as you, people on cross teams at your business, people you're working with. Everyone has different degrees of technical understanding and frankly caring, from that perspective. There are technical people who don't really want to know the technical reason, they want to know the business reason, or they want that technical reason simplified so they can present it to people who are non-technical. So that is definitely, in my opinion, the most important skill you can have, soft skill at least.
The
With
bottom
that
line
also-
is when people are interviewing for a job, there may be two of you interviewing for the same job. And if one has soft skills and one doesn't, the one that has soft skills gets that job. That is going to be a differentiator. So know what your differentiators are. You can both analyze data. You have the same education, but what's going to differentiate you is how you communicate and how you're able to demonstrate that you can speak to the business, translate what you know technologically to the business. And if you can't do that, you will lose your job every time. You will lose that opportunity every time. So that's as much a skill as any technology that you're learning right now. You have to be able to complement both.
With that, I was going to add that it's very important to be able to read the room and know who your audience are. I feel like that's what we're all trying to say. That way you know how technical you can get or how non-technical or something in between. Because I feel like a lot of times, even if you just talk to the business, sometimes they do want you to get a little bit more technical. Sometimes they do want you to dig a little deeper, but more of a surface level. So it's just important to read the room and be able to pivot if they ask questions.
I would like to add something. It's good to have the soft skills, but at the same time, it's good to have very direct communication. In a lot of interviews, managers, what they look for is for clear answers to what they're asking for. And a lot of people, they talk, but they don't say anything. So you have to learn how to very efficiently make people understand what you're saying in the best possible way.
Another thing they also look for in interviews is if you don't know the answer, they want you to express that and express the parts that maybe you're confused, especially if you're in like a technical interview and you get stuck. They want you to be able to articulate, this is what I'm having a problem with. How would you approach this? What am I missing? Like those types of the ability to interact, specifically in an interview setting. They want to see that you are like proactive and working on it, not just did they do it right, and did they sit there and bang out the leak code problem. They want to hear you communicating, talking about the things you're confused on, saying, oh, this is the thing that's not working, I think it might be this. Talking through your process is super important.
I'd like to add one more thing on what he said, that on purpose a lot of interviewers, they will try to put you on the spot to see how you're going to react. So it's good to be able to speak and respond.
Thank you all. I know some of you have classes at 4:15, so I would like to thank all the students who showed up today, who attended today's event. You achieved two goals: short-term goal which might be extra credit, right? But there is a long-term goal, which is you learn something, something new. I also would like to thank faculty who encourage their students to attend. I would like to thank Dr. Shiwei Wang and the Computer Science Department for sponsoring this event. I also would like to thank Ann Kohler and Elizabeth Ehel for all their support in organizing this event. I would like to thank Jocelyn Rubik and the CBT Dean's Office for their support with all of the logistics for this event. And I would also like to thank the CBT marketing team for promoting this event and being here all day for interviews, pictures, and the post-event work that they have to do to share this on social media. The biggest thank goes to our alumni. We truly appreciate the time you dedicated today to be here to share your stories, your struggles, and your successes. The lessons you learned, hopefully, are some lessons that our students can learn early enough so they don't have to deal with some of the frustrations you had in your career, right? Again, thank you. Thank you for participating, and we would like to invite you for the next year's event. This is an event that we will run every year from now on, and we ask for your support. For alumni, if you're planning to come back soon, we have the Computer Science Eagle Hack Fest happening on April 17th. I'll be sharing some information with you, but we always look for judges, moderators, and mentors for our students. As Dr. Shiwei Wang mentioned at the opening remarks, that event has been growing year after year. We started with 40, then 80, then 130 plus last year. So we're planning for a bigger event this year, right? Right, Dr. Wang? So if you're interested in mentoring students on that day, I'll be sharing this opportunity with you. And please, we ask you to volunteer. And for our students, that's something you can add on your resume. When you attend a hackathon, you're showing employers not only you work on a project, but you show your enthusiasm about going above and beyond and doing extracurricular activities. So please participate for the NEIU Hackathon, Eagle Hack Fest, and you might win a reward as well. We have 4 tracks for AI, cybersecurity, computer science, and IT. And for each track, there is a winner team that they get to split a reward, right? An Amazon gift card, probably. And a certificate. And I also would like to thank Carla Kubert for co-moderating this panel with me. It has been an honor, and it's always good to have you back. All right, Shiwei, do you want to say something? All right, thank you all. Thank you. And last thing, we want to take a group picture with students and then with alumni. So let's do that before your classes start. I know you have some of you have classes at 4:15. So let's get done. Let's get that done.